allowed inside the Presley mansion today. The private funeral service reported many celebrities, but they all drove quietly through the gates.
When Elvis Presley passed away in 1977, the world stood still. Fans from around the world mourned the loss of the king of rock and roll, but what happened at his funeral left many in shock. It wasn't just a gathering of family and close friends, some of the most unexpected. Faces showed up to pay their final respects. From famous rivals to mysterious strangers, the list of attendees sparked rumors that still go on today. Join us in this video as we reveal the surprising guests who showed up at Elvis Presley's funeral. The surprising attendees at Elvis Presley's funeral. A star-studded goodbye. As the sun rose over Graceland on that unforgettable day, it wasn't just family and fans who gathered to say goodbye. It was a full-blown who's who of American icons. Standing quietly among the crowd was Anne Margaret, Elvis's former co-star and long-rumored love interest. She arrived with her husband, Roger Smith, her signature red hair shining, her eyes full of emotion. The woman who once danced beside Elvis in Viva Las Vegas now walked, slowly, her grief showing with every step. Her presence wasn't just personal, it was symbolic. It reminded everyone of Elvis's golden era on the silver screen and the deep ties he formed both on and off the stage. But Anne Margaret wasn't the only surprise. Caroline Kennedy, daughter of former President John F. Kennedy, also made an appearance. Her presence added an unexpected link between politics and pop culture, showing how Elvis had touched lives in the highest places of American society. And then came the man many considered the soul to Elvis's rock, James Brown. The godfather of soul showed up to honor his fellow musical legend. They had formerly been competitors on the charts, but now they stood united in legacy. Brown's simple tribute spoke volumes, demonstrating that Elvis's influence extended beyond genres and rivalries. George Hamilton, a close friend known for his perpetual tan and attractive smile, had a gloomy countenance that day. Their friendship, which began in the glitz of Hollywood, had endured the test of time. Another great was by him, Sammy Davis Jr., a Rat Pack icon and boundary-breaking entertainer. Sammy's performance reminded the world of Elvis's backing for performers of color during a period of profound racial divide. And perhaps the most unexpected guest of all, John Wayne. Yes, the Duke himself, in a private moment. Away from cameras, the rugged Western star came to pay his respects. The image of the tough cowboy honoring the king of rock and roll might sound unreal, but it happened. This rare gathering of stars, from movie icons and music giants to political royalty, wasn't just about saying goodbye. It showed just how far Elvis's influence had traveled. In life, he brought people together. In death, he did it one more time. Elvis was gone, but who truly grieved behind the scenes? Stay tuned to find out. The ones who knew him best. Grief behind the spotlight. Despite all of the star power and attention, those closest to Elvis felt the most pain. At the heart of it all stood Priscilla Presley, as graceful as ever, clutching the hand of their young daughter, Lisa Marie Presley. Just 9 years old at that time, Lisa faced a pain far too big for someone so small. Her wide eyes mirrored her father's features, a living reflection of the man the world had come to mourn. Priscilla, always composed, stood strong, yet every tear told the story of a bond that went far beyond fame. Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's longtime manager, was nearby, eliciting mixed reactions. Parker, once considered the mastermind, behind the king's ascension, appeared hollow, as if he had recognized that the golden voice, on which he had built an empire, had vanished forever. His presence reminded many that Elvis's professional life was filled with complex loyalties and emotional debts. Another presence carried a different kind of pain. Ginger Alden, Elvis's fiancée at the time of his death, the woman who found him lifeless, stood quietly among the mourners. Her hopes of a future with him were dashed in an instant. Her red-rimmed eyes and distant stare conveyed not only grief, but also astonishment, heartbreak, and unfinished chapters. Then there was Linda Thompson, Elvis's long-term girlfriend before Ginger. She came too. Standing among the crowd, her appearance said everything. Love doesn't vanish when relationships end. To be there, alongside Priscilla and Ginger, showed just how deeply Elvis had touched those he let into his heart. In a quiet corner, barely noticed by the press, sat Minnie May, Elvis's grandmother. At 89, she had outlived both her son, Vernon, and now, her grandson. The sorrow on her face was heavy and real. She wasn't just mourning a celebrity. She was mourning her baby boy's baby boy. Her frail presence reminded everyone that behind the glamour was a family shattered by grief. This circle, Priscilla, Lisa, Marie, Ginger, Linda, Colonel Parker, and Minnie May, stood at the true center of the storm. Each brought their own love, their own regrets, their own memories. While the world had lost an icon, they had lost someone far more personal. A husband, a father, a lover, a grandson, a friend. Their pain drove away the cameras and people, revealing the genuine story of love, loss, and the man behind the legend. But who exactly was Elvis Presley? And what was his story before his untimely demise? Keep watching to find out. The King's Rise and Lasting Legacy. Elvis Aaron Presley wasn't just a singer and actor, he was the king of rock and roll, a cultural icon who changed music and society forever. Born in Tupelo, Mississippi, Elvis moved with his family to Memphis, Tennessee as a teenager. There, he began his career in 1954 at Sun Records, working with producer Sam Phillips, who wanted to share the powerful sound of African-American music with a wider audience. With his bandmates, Scotty Moore on guitar and Bill Black on bass, Elvis created something new, rockabilly, a lively mix of country and rhythm and blues that shook up the music world. By 1955, with drummer D.J. Fontana joining, Elvis's classic quartet was complete. Soon after, his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, helped Elvis sign with RCA Victor, where he released Heartbreak Hotel in 1956. The song became a #1 hit, and Elvis quickly rose to fame, selling millions of records. His energetic, sometimes provocative performances sparked excitement and controversy, especially as he brought African-American music influences to the forefront during a time of tense race relations in America. Elvis also made waves in Hollywood. His first film, Love Me Tender, came out in 1956, and over the next decade, he starred in hits like Jailhouse Rock, Blue Hawaii, and Viva Las Vegas. Although critics often dismissed his movies, his fans kept coming back. After serving in the military from 1958 to 1960, Elvis returned with some of his most successful music and eventually made a famous TV comeback in 1968. This special reignited his career and led to sold-out shows in Las Vegas and worldwide tours. In 1973, Elvis made history with Aloha from Hawaii, the first concert by a solo artist broadcast live globally. Elvis's impact is undeniable. He sold around 500 million records worldwide across many music styles, pop, country, gospel, rock and roll, and more. He won 3 Grammy Awards and received the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award when he was just 36. Posthumously, he's been inducted into several halls of fame and even awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2018. His records for chart-topping albums and singles in both the US and UK still stand strong today. Elvis wasn't just a musician. He was, and remains, a true legend. Elvis built a legacy, but who truly held his heart? Let's find out. Priscilla and Elvis. A love that crossed oceans and ages. The story of Priscilla and Elvis began long before they even met. Elvis was already a global rock star, while Priscilla was just an 11-year-old girl listening to his music far away at an Air Force base in Austin, Texas. In her own words, Priscilla wrote in 1985, 3 years later, and 5,500 miles away, I would meet him. Their first meeting happened in 1959 at a party in Wiesbaden, West Germany. How did these two Americans end up there? Priscilla's stepfather was stationed at the Air Force Base, and Elvis was serving in the Army. The age gap was clear. Priscilla was only 14, and Elvis was 24. She remembered how Elvis reacted. When he learned she was still in 9th grade, "Why, you're just a baby." Priscilla later shared memories of Elvis with today's Jenna Bush Hager, describing the singer's magnetic presence. It started out, really, with his voice, she said. When he sang, it was like he was singing just to you. She also admitted he wasn't bad to look at either. Everyone had a crush on him. They're still having crushes on him. In a 1999 interview with Larry King, Priscilla revealed she met Elvis during a vulnerable time. He had just lost his mother. He was grieving, she said. Despite everything, their relationship grew, and school became less important to her. My concentration was totally on Elvis, she recalled. Elvis had a vision for Priscilla, not just as a girlfriend, but as the right girl, the one he wanted to save for marriage. She fit his idea perfectly. A soft-spoken brunette with blue eyes. He even molded her, shaping how she dressed and behaved to match his preferences. After just a few dates, Priscilla's parents wanted to meet Elvis. Her stepfather questioned him, "You have women throwing themselves at you." "Why my daughter?" Elvis answered with sincerity. "She's a lot more mature than her age, and I enjoy her company. You don't have to worry. I'll take good care of her." Priscilla's family soon trusted Elvis, with her mother and father seeing him as charming and genuine. But the young girl's devotion was so strong that she would get upset whenever her parents tried to keep them. "I don't think anything could have stopped me from seeing Elvis," she admitted. When Elvis returned to the U.S. in 1960, there was a brief silence. Priscilla's mother warned her, "See, I told you." But soon, Elvis began calling again, and their story picked up once more. By 1963, Priscilla's parents agreed to let her finish school in Memphis so she could be closer to Elvis. In 1967, after years of being together, Elvis and Priscilla finally tied the knot in a quick Las Vegas ceremony. Elvis had proposed the year before, and though they were happy living together, Priscilla explained to Ladies' Home Journal in 1972, "Even though we were perfectly content the way we were, at that time it wasn't nice for people to live together." The wedding lasted just 8 minutes. Priscilla later told Barbara Walters in 1985 that their marriage was largely pushed by Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's manager. Presley's manager put the pressure to marry and marry soon. "We'd been together for 6 years, she said. 9 months after the wedding, their only child, Lisa Marie Presley, was born. But even before Lisa Marie arrived, cracks appeared. While Priscilla was still pregnant, Elvis told her they needed to separate briefly because he was going through some things. In a 1985 essay for the Orlando Sentinel, Priscilla reflected on this difficult time. "I don't think Elvis really intended to leave me. It wasn't his style," she said. "I later realized he too had questions about how a baby would affect his life. Would his public accept him as a father? He wasn't even sure whether his fans had adapted to his becoming a husband. How loyal would they be?" After Lisa Marie's birth, their intimacy faded. Priscilla told Walters she believed Elvis struggled to reconcile his image of her as a little girl with her new role as a mother. "Our communication was horrible," she admitted. Elvis didn't like showing vulnerability, and their emotional distance grew. In her memoir, Elvis and Me, Priscilla revealed that Elvis once said he had never been able to make love to a woman who had a child. This left her questioning her own sexuality and feeling emotionally neglected. "My physical and emotional needs were unfulfilled," she wrote. By 1972, Priscilla made a painful but necessary decision to leave Elvis. "I had to take responsibility for myself," she told Walters. "By leaving Elvis, I found Priscilla." After the split, she pursued acting and became best known for her role on the TV show Dallas. Years later, during a 2016 appearance on Loose Women, Priscilla reflected on how much of her life had been swallowed up by Elvis's. "You obviously didn't have your own life. You lived his life. You saw the movies he wanted to see. You listened to the music he listened to. You go to places he would go. So you really kind of lost yourself. As a woman, I didn't really know who I was," she said. 2018, speaking on Australia's Sunday Night, Priscilla opened up about Elvis's infidelity. During their marriage, he wasn't faithful. Not that he had someone special, but when? "You're in the entertainment business. There is always that, and I tried to turn my back to that. But I just didn't want to share him. Simple as that," she revealed, "as much as he wanted to be married and have a family. I don't know if he was ever cut to be married because I don't think he could ever be faithful to one woman." Their love endured, yet what toll did fame? Take next. Keep watching to find out. Elvis Presley's declining health. Presley's divorce from Priscilla was finalized on October 9, 1973. Despite ending their marriage, the two remained close friends until Elvis's death. They even held hands as they left the courtroom, a gesture that showed their enduring bond. Priscilla later reflected on their relationship after the split, saying, "We lived life together like we were never divorced. Elvis and I still hugged each other, still had love. We would say, 'Mommy said this, and Daddy said that.' That helped Lisa to feel stable. There was never any arguing or bitterness." By this point, Elvis's health was seriously deteriorating. During 1973, he overdosed on barbiturates twice, with the first overdose leaving him in a coma for 3 days in his hotel suite. Later that year, he was hospitalized due to complications from a pethidine addiction. His primary care physician, Dr. George C. Nicopolis, explained that Elvis believed that obtaining substances through a doctor was different from the common, everyday junkie getting something off the street. Since his famous comeback, Elvis had been steadily increasing the number of live shows he performed each year. In 1973, he played an exhausting 168 concerts, his busiest schedule ever. Despite his declining health, he maintained an intense touring schedule through 1974. That September, Presley's condition worsened dramatically. Keyboardist Tony Brown recalled a troubling moment at a University of Maryland concert. He fell out of the limousine to his knees. People jumped to help, and he pushed them away like, "Don't help me." He walked on stage and held onto the mic for the first 30 minutes like it was a post. Everybody's looking at each other like, "Is the tour gonna happen?" Guitarist John Wilkinson gave a heartbreaking account of Elvis's state. He was all gut. He was slurring. He was so up. It was obvious he was laced. It was obvious there was something terribly wrong with his body. It was so bad the words to the songs were barely intelligible. I remember crying. He could barely get through the introductions. On July 13, 1976, Vernon Presley, Elvis's father, who had increasingly taken control over his son's financial affairs, decided to fire 3 longtime members of Elvis's inner circle. Known as the Memphis Mafia, Red West, Sonny West, and David Hebler. Red West had been Elvis's close friend since the 1950s. The official reason given was the need to cut back on expenses. At the time, Elvis was in Palm Springs, and some have suggested he was too afraid to confront the men himself. John O'Grady, another associate, believed the firing was due to the bodyguard's rough treatment of fans, which had led to multiple lawsuits. Meanwhile, Elvis's stepbrother, David Stanley, claimed the real reason was that the bodyguards had become increasingly outspoken about Presley's growing substance dependency. Meanwhile, RCA Records was growing concerned as Elvis's enthusiasm for studio work sharply declined. After a productive recording session in December 1973, which yielded 18 songs, enough for nearly 2 albums, Presley did not make any official studio recordings in 1974. Instead, Colonel Tom Parker delivered another live album to RCA. Elvis recorded live on stage in Memphis, which was recorded on March 20, 1974. This album featured Presley's stirring rendition of How Great Thou Art, which earned him his 3rd and final Grammy Award for Best Inspirational Performance. Notably, all 3 of Elvis's competitive Grammy wins, out of a total of 14 nominations, were for his gospel recordings. Elvis returned to the studio in March 1975, but efforts by Parker to arrange further sessions later that year were unsuccessful. In 1976, RCA took the unusual step of sending a mobile recording unit to Graceland enabling 2 full-scale recording sessions at Elvis's home. Despite this effort, the recording process had become increasingly difficult for Presley, reflecting his declining health and waning motivation. As his health faded, how did Elvis face the stage? Keep watching to find out. Elvis Presley's final years, decline and last performances. By early 1977, the stark reality of Presley's condition was apparent. Journalist Tony Sherman described him as having become a grotesque caricature of his sleek, energetic, former self. Grossly overweight and mentally dulled by the vast array of medications he consumed daily, Presley barely managed to get through his shortened concerts. Andy Green of Rolling Stone later characterized these final performances as sad, sloppy affairs, where a bloated, wasted Presley struggled to remember his lyrics and get through the night without collapsing. At a show in Alexandria, Louisiana, he was on stage for less than an hour and was impossible to understand. On March 31st, he canceled a performance in Baton Rouge after being unable to get out of his hotel bed, and over the next few weeks, 4 additional shows were either canceled or rescheduled, despite his accelerating health decline. Presley continued to fulfill most of his touring commitments. Fans grew, increasingly vocal about their disappointment, but Presley seemed largely disconnected from it all. According to author Peter Guralnick, his world had shrunk to the confines of his room and the spiritualism books he devoured. Presley's cousin, Billy Smith, recalled how Elvis would spend hours chatting quietly, often recalling favorite Monty Python sketches or stories from his past, but also being gripped by paranoid obsessions. On June 6, 1977, Presley released Way Down, his last single issued during his lifetime. That same month, CBS recorded 2 concerts for a television special, Elvis in Concert, which was slated to air in October. The first, filmed in Omaha on June 19th, showcased a Presley whose voice was almost unrecognizable, a small, childlike instrument, as described by Guralnick. Presley spoke more than sang, struggled to find the melody, and was barely able to project or articulate the lyrics. 2 days later, during a performance in Rapid City, South Dakota, he appeared somewhat healthier, having lost a bit of weight, and sounded better overall. Yet, by the end of the show, his face was framed by sweat-drenched hair, his cheeks swollen and pale, a stark image of his physical decline. Presley's final concert took place on June 26, 1977, at Market Square Arena in Indianapolis. It would be the last time the world saw the legendary performer live. On August 1st, 1977, Elvis, What Happened? A tell-all book co-written by the 3 bodyguards fired the previous year, was published. It was the first major exposé, revealing Presley's long battle with substance addiction. Devastated by the book, Elvis attempted to stop its release by offering money to the publishers, but his efforts failed. By this time, Presley's health was severely compromised. He suffered from glaucoma, high blood pressure, liver damage, and an enlarged colon, conditions that worsened and were possibly caused by years of substance abuse. Elvis's last public appearance occurred in the early hours of August 8, 1977, when he rented out the entire Libertyland amusement park in Memphis for himself and a small group of friends. Just over a week later, on August 16th, he was scheduled to fly to Portland, Maine, to begin another tour. After Elvis's death, controversy soon followed. Presley's cousin Billy Mann accepted $18,000, about $93,000 in 2024 dollars, to secretly photograph Elvis's body. The photo became the National Enquirer's best-selling issue ever. Meanwhile, Alden sold her story to the same tabloid for $105,000, roughly $545,000 today, though she later settled for less, after breaking the exclusivity agreement. Notably, Presley left Alden nothing in his will. As the curtain closed, what really happened behind closed doors? Let's find out. The final hours and medical controversies surrounding Elvis Presley's death. On the afternoon of August 16, 1977, Elvis Presley was resting at his Graceland mansion in Memphis, Tennessee, between concert appearances. Around 2:30 p.m., his then-fiancée, Ginger Alden, found him lying face down on the bathroom floor. At 2:33 p.m., a call was placed to Memphis Fire Station number 29, reporting someone at 3754 Elvis Presley Boulevard was struggling to breathe. Ambulance Unit number 6 immediately rushed out, heading south, toward Graceland. Though visits to Graceland were not uncommon, often for fainting fans, or pedestrians hit near the mansion, the urgency was different this time. Within minutes, the ambulance arrived, passing through the open iron gates and traveling up the curved driveway to the white columned entrance. One of Presley's bodyguards quickly granted the medics access to the house. The paramedics hurried upstairs to the bathroom, where nearly a dozen people were gathered around a man in pajamas, lying flat on his back. At first, the medics didn't recognize who it was. Then they noticed the thick, graying sideburns and a large medallion hanging around his neck. It was Elvis Presley. His skin was a cold, dark blue. Checking for signs of life, the medics found no pulse and no pupil response to light. They prepared him swiftly for transport. Because Presley was obese and almost bloated, it took several men to carefully lift him onto the stretcher. His uneven weight made maneuvering difficult, especially around corners and down the stairs. As they loaded him into the ambulance, Dr. George Nicopolis, affectionately known as Dr. Nick and Presley's personal physician, jumped into the back just before the doors shut. Though Methodist South Hospital was only 5 minutes away, Dr. Nick instructed the driver to take Elvis to Baptist Memorial Hospital, 21 minutes from Graceland, knowing the staff there would handle the situation with more discretion. At the hospital, doctors and emergency personnel worked tirelessly to revive Elvis, but their efforts failed. At 3:30 p.m., Elvis Presley was pronounced dead. Hospital officials understood the critical nature of their next steps, preparing the official announcement that would soon shock the world. Dr. Eric Muirhead, Chief of Pathology at Baptist Memorial Hospital, led a skilled team of 9 doctors who performed Elvis Presley's autopsy. The doctors found no signs of stroke, heart failure, or lung disease. However, they did observe that Presley suffered from chronic illnesses such as diabetes and constipation. Physical evidence suggested long-term substance use, but toxicology tests were needed to confirm this. After the autopsy was complete, Elvis's body was released to the funeral home. Later that evening, at 8 p.m., a news conference was held. Medical examiner Dr. Jerry Francisco, who had only observed the autopsy but was not part of the team, took charge as the spokesperson. He announced that preliminary findings indicated Presley's cause of death was cardiac arrhythmia, a condition of irregular heartbeat, or in simpler Terms, heart failure. This announcement shocked Dr. Muirhead and the autopsy team. Not only had Francisco spoken on their behalf without their consent, but his conclusion did not align with their findings. The autopsy team had not yet determined a definitive cause of death, but suspected substance addiction as a likely factor. Despite this, Francisco asserted that substances were not involved and that no evidence of substance abuse was found, a statement most people at the time interpreted to mean no illegal substances were involved. For a while, this statement was widely accepted. However, weeks later, the toxicology report revealed high levels of prescription painkillers in Presley's system, including Dilaudid, Quaalude, Percodan, Demerol, and codeine. This revelation prompted the Tennessee Board of Health to launch an investigation into Presley's death, which included scrutiny of his personal physician, Dr. George Nicopolis. During the ensuing hearings, evidence emerged showing that Dr. Nicopolis had written prescriptions for more than 8,000 doses of medication since 1975, with the frequency escalating over time. Nicopolis admitted to writing these prescriptions, but defended himself by explaining that Presley was so addicted to painkillers that he prescribed these medications to keep him away from dangerous and illegal street substances, attempting to manage his addiction. The jury accepted Nicopolis's defense and cleared him of negligence in Presley's death. Though acquitted in 1980 after a similar indictment involving Presley and singer Jerry Lee Lewis, Dr. Nicopolis's medical practices continued to face criticism. Ultimately, in 1995, the Tennessee Board of Medical Examiners permanently suspended his medical license for overprescribing medications to his patients. But was it all the substances, or was something deeper hidden? Stay tuned to find out. Genetic factors and alternative theories behind Elvis Presley's death. Although substance overdose remains a widely accepted theory behind Elvis Presley's death, some contemporary researchers argue that genetics played a more significant role than substance use or lifestyle choices. In a 2025 interview with The Mirror, author Sally A. Hodel, who wrote the 2020 book Destined to Die Young, asserted that Presley did not die from a substance overdose, as many people believe, but rather from a cardiac event. Hodel pointed out that Presley had a family history of premature deaths caused by heart and liver ailments, including his mother, Gladys, who suffered a similar 4-year decline before she died in 1958. Hodel explained, "The fact is that much of his poor health was out of his control. There is a long history of premature death in his family tree. Elvis had a disease or disorder in 9 of the 11 systems of the body. At least 5 of those were present prior to fame and most likely since birth, as they're genetic. Therefore, they could not have been caused by the stress of fame or his problem with prescription medication. In large part, he was self-medicating through a great deal of illness. Regardless of the cause, Presley's passing marked the end of an era, and fans around the world rushed to pay their respects." What are your thoughts about the surprising attendees at Elvis Presley's funeral and the ordeal surrounding his death? Let us know in the comments section below. Thank you for watching this video. We hope you found it interesting. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the next video shown on your screen to catch up on your favorite celebrity stories. See you there.